Welcome to this lesson on analytical geometry, grade 12. The first lesson will focus on the equation of a circle with center at the origin. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to find the equation of a circle centered at the origin. Before we start with the equation of a circle, let's start by summarizing in details what we learned in grade 10 and 11 in analytical geometry. Firstly, let's look at the distance formula. When do we use the distance formula? We can use the distance formula to calculate the distance or length when given 2 points. We can use the distance formula to determine the x coordinates or y coordinates given the length. We can use the distance formula to show or prove the type of a triangle, whether the triangle is isosceles, equilateral, scalene, or a right angled. We can use the distance formula to show the type of a quadrilateral, whether the quadrilateral is a parallelogram, a rectangle, a square, or a rhombus. The distance formula can also help us to calculate the area, since when we calculate the area, the formula for the area is half base times height, which is the distances. The midpoint formula. We can use the midpoint formula to determine the midpoint of a line segment. Find the coordinate of midpoint of a line segment. Determine the coordinates of the vertices of a rectangle, parallelogram, square, or a rhombus. Or to show that the quadrilateral, the type of a quadrilateral, a rectangle, square, or rhombus. Right. So we also have the gradient. We'll talk about the gradient. The angle of inclination. So the angle of, if theta is the angle of inclination of line OR, then tan theta equals to gradient OR. So we can use the gradient. We can use the gradient to show that lines are parallel. Lines will be parallel if their gradient are equal. This applies only on a non-vertical line, because a vertical line has a gradient. The gradient of a vertical line is undefined. Right. So we can also use the gradient to show that two lines are perpendicular, since the product of the gradient of the two lines is equals to -1. Therefore, the two lines are perpendicular. Right. So we can also use gradient to prove that points are collinear, since their gradient are equal. The gradient of the distances are equal. Equation of a straight line. So the equation of a straight line, y equals to mx plus c, where m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. Or you can use the equation y minus y1 equals to m into x minus x1. A vertical line, x equals to a number. Gradient is undefined. Horizontal line, y equals to a number. Gradient equals to 0. We want to find the equation of a circle. What is a circle? A circle is made up of a set of points that are equidistant from its center. The circle has a circumference, which is the distance around the circle. You can call it the perimeter of the circle. The perimeter of the circle is called the circumference. A circle has a center, which is the fixed point, the center. A circle has a radius, which is the distance from the center to the circumference. And many radius are called radii, which are equal in length. Then we have the diameter. A diameter is a line joining 2 points on the second and passes through the center of the second. The diameter is twice the length of the radius. Now, let's look at the equation of the second with center at the origin, meaning that the center, the x value and y value of the center is 0, 0. I call this second with center OO. It's second OO because the center is at 0, 0. The y value is 0, the x value is 0. Let's look at this diagram. Suppose that P, xy is always r units from the origin, 0, 0. This implies that P lies anywhere on the circle. From the distance formula, we know that OP squared equals to x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 all squared. So if we work it out, we'll have OP squared equals to x squared plus y squared. But we know that OP equals to r. Therefore, OP squared equals to r squared. So therefore, the equation of the circle will be x squared plus y squared equals to r squared. So the equation of the circle with center at the origin is therefore x squared plus y squared equals to r squared. Circle OO has the equation x squared plus y squared equals to r squared. Why? Because our center, the x value of the center is 0 and the y value of the center is 0. Now let's look at questions involving circle with center at the origin. Find the equation of the circle with center at the origin. Need to know the radius r. Determine the equation of the circle with center, the origin and radius 5. So we're given that the radius is 5. So we'll use our equation with center at the origin, which is x squared plus y squared equals to r squared. So we know r, which is the radius, is 5. Therefore, we substitute r. We'll have x squared plus y squared equals to 5 squared. 5 squared equals to 25. Therefore, x squared plus y squared equals to 25. So this is the equation of the second. Very, very simple. Number B, determine the equation of the circle with center, the origin passing through the point minus 2, 4. So here's the sketch. So we have minus 2, x is negative, and then 4. So there's the radius. So this time we are given x and y. We are not given the radius. So we must calculate the radius. So we know that the equation of the circle with center at the origin is x squared plus y squared equals to r squared. Then we substitute x and y. Therefore, we have minus 2 squared plus 4 squared equals to r squared. Therefore, we have 4 plus 16. Therefore, r squared equals to 20. Therefore, the equation for the second is x squared plus y squared equals to 20. Very, very simple. You just substitute. When you are given the radius, you substitute the radius. When you are given the x and y, you just substitute your x and y to find the equation of the second by calculating the radius. Now let's look at another example. B minus square root of 8 is a point on the second with equation x squared plus y squared equals to 17. So don't forget that the equation of a circle with center at the origin is x squared plus y squared equals to r squared. And therefore your r squared is equals to 17. So if you want to find r, which is the radius, you introduce square root. Therefore the radius is square root of 17. So don't forget that your r is always positive. So r equals to square root of 17. So the first question, determine the possible value of b, determine the x and y intercept of the second. We know that for x-intercept, y equals to 0, and for y-intercept, we put x to be 0. So here is the diagram representing this equation. So we have our y as negative square root of 8 and our x value as b. So to calculate, to find b, we substitute x squared, we substitute as b, and y squared we substitute as square root of negative square root of 8. Then we'll have b squared plus 8 equals to 17. Therefore, b squared equals to 9. Then we introduce square root, we have b squared equals to plus or minus 9. Therefore, b equals to 3 or b equals to minus 3. So don't forget that when you introduce square root, when you calculate x and y, you must have two values, because when you introduce square root, you must have plus or minus. So to find the x and y intercept, for x intercept, we let y equals to 0. We substitute, then we have x squared plus 0 squared equals to 17. Therefore, x squared equals to 17. We introduce square root. Therefore, x equals to plus or minus square root of 17. X equals to 17 or x equals to negative 17 at the circumference. Right. To find the y-intercept, we let our x to be 0. So therefore, 0 squared plus y squared equals to 17. We solve for y squared equals to 17. We introduce square root. Therefore, y equals to plus or minus square root of 17. Therefore, y equals to 17 or y equals to minus 17. So here is just substitution. To find x-intercept, you let y equals to 0. To find y-intercept, you let x equals to 0, like we do in graphs. Visit other textbook for this topic. The table below provides the references from different textbooks, and do the exercises. Both Platinum and Clever have combined circle with center at the origin, which is this lesson, and circle with center not at the origin, which is the next lesson. So it is recommended that you source some questions from elsewhere for this lesson, as there are very few questions in Platinum and Clever.